Welcome to the Planetary Health Lab podcast, where science meets whole person healing. We interview top experts in integrative wellness to bring you vetted, evidence-based tools for mental and physical well-being. Because when we align human health with planetary health, we all thrive.
I'm here with Liz Moyer. Ben, perhaps, how are you?
Good, I'm good. How are you doing?
Really good. I'm so excited to speak with you today, especially these trying times that we're going through right now, collectively and individually. So I'm just going to start off with the heavy hitter.
Do it, please.
What do we do?
I
Help.
know.
What do we do?
I know. I feel you. I totally feel you. It is true. The intensity of the world is very real. Do you identify as a feeler at all?
Yes, I definitely, as
Yeah.
empath, for sure.
Empath for sure. Yeah, me as well. I'm right there with you. So it's actually my own journey and experience of reclaiming what it means to be an empath, really understanding my own sensitivity as a form of intelligence that has led me to this work of figuring out how to have a healthier relationship with our world and these big changes going on. Part of my story, a big part of my story is coming from the international development and sustainable development social impact field. So think UN, international nonprofits, grassroots development activism, and really seeing a gap in terms of conversations and tools that support the inner dimension of this work, the inner dimension of caring about what's going on, the inner dimension of showing up and trying to be of service in some kind of way. And funny enough, it was the feelings that I felt the first time I really began to open my eyes to the reality of extreme poverty and injustice in the world that set me on this path of social impact and sustainable development work. So it's been this beautiful full circle thing for me of coming back around, and for the last 8 years trying to fill that gap that I've seen and help people have a healthier relationship with what's going on, not only for their own sanity, but then also in order to show up and embody the change that they wish to see in the world.
How do you balance that, being such an empath, being such a feeler, with everything that's going on, with some of the things you've seen, such as extreme poverty?
It's a good question. How to balance it in terms of like almost what to do with so much sensory information about the world. Is that a good way to reframe your question or echo back your question?
Sure. Or like, how do you maintain balance emotionally, or just embrace lack of, I don't know, balance all the time?
Yeah. I think it's fair to say that the world is in a quite imbalanced place these days. So experiencing imbalance is often a reflection of that or can echo that. I'm a big believer, firm believer, and it might seem like a very obvious thing to say, but we are inherently part of the collective, like collective bodies and the collective system. And I know that's a big theme within the mission of the work that you all do too, in terms of planetary health, the changes on the planet affecting and being directly connected to people's own health and personal experiences and stuff like that. And so I know for me, just starting off by even recognizing and acknowledging that I'm affected by what's going on out there is a helpful start for me to ground that. I've come to learn and recognize that if I sit down and I dive into the news of the day, it's going to affect me, right? Like when I walk away, especially if I'm doing it mindlessly, if I'm doing it in between meetings or running to the bathroom real quick and scrolling, that there is an energetic effect that it's going to have for me. And if I don't create the space and time to work with that or care for that, or even give myself a second to exhale after the inhale grip of holding my breath and taking in what I'm taking in, or whatever it may be, that, what we know about emotions, and this is the cool thing about, in my humble view, about the times that we live in, is that we're in this age of research and evidence base around really things that, up until now have been a little elusive in some ways, like emotions, for instance, right? What are they? How do they work in the mind and body, and neurobiologically speaking? What is their evolutionary purpose? And of course, our ancestors and generations before us across the world have offered us different understandings and explanations of emotions, but this kind of evidence-based era that we live in really teaches us that emotions at their core are just energy. They're energy that can't be created or destroyed in the sense of physics. And so if we have an experience with the world's pain, if we have an experience with current events and the very many normal feelings like overwhelm, of maybe helplessness, of frustration and anger, of disbelief, of even like awe and inspiration and more positive and generative. And actually, I'm going to scratch that last line. I think all emotions are generative if we know how to work with them. But just to cap off that trail of thought that I was on, and if we don't create the time and space to work with them constructively, then they're going to get stuck in our system.
So how do
Yeah.
we work with them constructively? What are the ways you have found best to work with them?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the techniques and the practices that I work with and am informed by and inspired by are all awareness based. So, awareness based practices, even that practice of acknowledgement that I just spoke about, really understanding that we live in a day and age where we have a much more intimate and up close and personal relationship with the world. And that kind of calls into question of, okay, what is my relationship with the world like these days? Is it helping me to be of service and show up in the ways that I'd like to? And then there are a whole host of really awesome, both affective, meaning emotions based, as well as somatic practices out there that are also really rooted in mindfulness. Also, having the support and the resources to be able to slow down, which is seriously no small feat in this world and no small feat in the face of the reality of trauma that often makes it unsafe for people to slow down or needing additional resources or support to really do that in a very titrated way, in a very well supported way. But once we are supported and well resourced enough to be able to slow down, we can begin to tune into and turn inward to notice what we notice within ourselves, in our mind and our body, right? And what is really cool is this whole field of relational neuroscience or interpersonal neurobiology, where we really understand that the presence of an emotionally safe other is so key to being able to support the tender parts of us to be able to come up and out, to be able to be seen and heard and validated. There's a lot of really great work around how, like, resonance practice as a practice of validating and affirming and being like, oh, yeah, I'm right there with you, mama. I feel that. I see that. Not even necessarily agreeing, not getting stuck in the narrative, just resonating with that felt sense, embodied experience, one human to the other, really supports emotions to live out their full waves and to reveal what's called the adaptive tendencies that live on the other side of them. A kind of pot of gold that tells us what we need, that's at the heart of why we're feeling what we're feeling.
Do you think society that we live in, like in the United States, especially Western, do you think we're getting less empathetic?
That's an awesome question. And honestly, what I want to do right now is I wish there was like 4 or 5 of us and we could just create space for that question and just essentially jam on it, because I think it's a really interesting one. My sense is that there is a real opportunity for us to become more empathetic, just in terms of the access that we have to seeing and sensing so much more of the world these days. There are I mean, it's interesting to think about that, what, a couple generations ago, the imaginative scope of a community was limited to the edges of their town, the edges of the area that they lived in. And now here we are in this super expansive place as a global society that takes us to every corner of the world. And so in that way, there's a real opportunity. And I think we absolutely see this too. I think it's actually tied to the rise of like political activation that we really see these days. I just got a little bit of chills saying that too. But I think the risk that we run is seeing too much too fast and not having the tools to process and integrate it. Like, we are in this tidal wave of just, I don't know, are you familiar with the story Matilda? Yeah, I'm blanking on the character's name, but when he's just guzzling down all that chocolate
The
cake.
chocolate cake. Yeah.
The chocolate cake scene with, yeah, I wish I remembered the names better, but it's just that kind of high level consumption of information and material and,
Forced consumption too.
yeah, forced consumption. Absolutely. And so I think that there's the opportunity to become more empathetic. And I think that we also are that's naturally happening. Understandably, people are also turning off and shutting down. And I think we're seeing a lot of ambivalence these days, which is different than apathy. You
How is it
know,
different?
apathy, and honestly, both are coping mechanisms. Both are really creative forms of self-protection. So I want to just name that up front. But apathy is really like a lack of care, like a real pulling back and tuning out of almost like a nihilistic, like, F it, like I'm out thing. Whereas like ambivalence is more of a push and pull of like the complicated, twisted up knot of being like, oh, I'm all in one day. Oh, I need to turn away the next day. And so within that, there is still this inherent care, but there is the need to protect oneself because almost learning that caring so much either doesn't produce the fruits that you're looking for or hoping for, or leads to burnout or compassion fatigue or loss of one's sanity. You know what I mean? So it's, yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely spoken to friends about like spiraling. It's very easy to spiral these days. Reading the news or being on social media. What do you suggest in moments like that when people have those moments?
I think in the moments of emotional overwhelm, of spiraling, I think first and foremost, finding ways to support yourself in that moment. The first one that's coming to mind to me right now is just even putting your feet on the floor, rocking back and forth, really feeling your connection with the earth and with your body. Because oftentimes emotional overwhelm can take us up and out of our bodies, right? Which again is just a creative form of self protection. Even actually, I'm going to go back to that acknowledgement and that awareness piece, even beginning by saying, whoa, I'm spiraling right now. This is my system telling me that I need to step back and slow down and take a break. And then I think from there, and there's all sorts of cool emotional mindfulness and somatic techniques depending on what you're feeling, you know what I mean? And whether it's like anger and the unique ways to support anger or sadness and grief and the unique ways to support that. I think something that more generally is really needed these days is relationships and spaces to really unpack what's going on and come up with our own answers as individuals. We live in such complex times. It's like complexity is at the heart, whether we're talking about systems change or even systems thinking, or we're talking about the complicated nature morally and emotionally and spiritually of what we're facing and experiencing and grappling with. And I think a lack of supportive space. And again, it could be a friend. It could even be within yourself, honestly, right? Like journaling and creating art, but just giving ourselves the permission to, and the space and the support to be able to unpack what we're experiencing and get into the gray areas of it all, the nuance within it all, and come up with our own answers. So going back to the spiral bit, recognizing what's happening, supporting oneself in the moment, and then finding supportive space to unpack and digest and come up with one's own answers. And then that circles back to the acknowledgement piece for me of being like, this shit's complicated. This stuff's complex and hard. And yeah, all sorts of different thoughts, but I'll just pause there in that response.
I'd like to wrap up with kind of what you're doing in your life, what you like specific to you, and also if you meditate, because you're giving off a very meditative
I do.
personality.
Yeah.
And so if you are, it's showing.
Your meditation's showing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I do in my own personal life, yeah. So my husband and life partner, he is a psychiatrist and psychotherapist and a healing centered one at that. And so him and I just nerd out on healing centered stuff all the time together. And I bring him up to as just a source of support and a rock. And him and I experience the world in similar ways and we experience the world in different ways. And having both of those elements is helpful to me. I feel very grateful and humbled and to be doing this work and to feel called to be doing this work. This work for me is a spiritual calling, and having a relationship with something that's purpose filled like that is really helpful to me, because in this world where there's a million plus things going wrong and it's very easy to get pushed and pulled in a million plus directions, and I've certainly explored and experimented in all sorts of different areas of work professionally, or even finding grassroots activist community spaces to plug into. And I've learned so much from all those different places and experiences too. Really finding my groove for right now, right? Because it's an evolving, moving target kind of thing, but feeling a connection with that which I feel called to do and pour myself into creatively, intellectually, spiritually, professionally helps to channel and funnel all that energy. And then also dancing, I've got a 2-year-old daughter, and coupling it all with the joy and the awesomeness that's also here and is inherent to all of this.
Yeah, I think the happiest part of living in my own apartment now, and dance parties all the time.
I love it.
Dance party when I do the dishes, dance party when I clean the house,
Yes.
dance party wiping off the floor.
That's right. Wax on, wax off. Yeah.
Really quickly, that you have a book out.
Yes. Thank
I'd
you.
love to I'd love to hear a little bit about it and when it's coming out and where people can find it and find you.
Amazing. Yes. It's my debut book. It's the season of birthing for me. I said 2-year-old daughter, birthing this book. We'd like to have another baby too. So it's called When the World Hurts, Why the World's Pain Makes Sense and What You Can Do About It. And it's going to be published on October 22nd. So you can find it on Amazon. You can find it on my website, which is wehealforall.com, WEHEALFORALL.com. And then you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. And I've got a song.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for speaking with us today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Planetary Health Lab podcast. If you're interested in being a guest or want to nominate someone doing impactful work in integrative wellness, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out by email at info@tinihabitat.com. That's info@tinihabitat.com. Better health starts with better information. Keep learning with us on Instagram, Spotify, and X.